Hello, everyone. I'm Hal Levy at PYMNTS.com. I'm joined today by Jolanda Schekermans, who is the head of product at API Experience at Form 3. Welcome. Nice to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're discussing APIs today, not just the technical aspects, but really what they're meant to do, how they improve connectivity as we see all manner of payments ideally connecting across borders, across use cases, and certainly across stakeholders. So let's dive right in. When we're thinking about APIs and the way they've been emerging and the way they are thought of, we may think of them much more in a technological aspect, but really they are there to serve a need, to serve a function. That's all about access. So let's talk about this. How have banks traditionally looked to forge a connectivity when they are connecting to different schemes or even to different flows? There are any number of pain points that have existed through the years. I'd love to get your thoughts. What have the traditional mindsets and strategies been for FIs, and how have they not met what needed today? And then how do APIs start to address those pain points?
Yeah, so I would say traditionally banks would have been having no choice really about having to create separate multiple integration points into different payment schemes, replicating a lot of effort, not only on the integration, but also on the types of flows and notifications that they have to look into. And also done on old school technology, where they often depend on the technology that would be allowed by those schemes, or even sometimes their network provider. That doesn't really fit anymore, I would say, with the technology status of the payments world that we are in right now. And also not with the speed of payments that need to be able to be processed. I think their APIs in both cases definitely will help move that along and create more progress in the payments industry.
When we're talking about progress, obviously the developers are on the front line of all this, and they need a bit of, I would say, streamlining to help their productivity. They need a little bit of future proofing, if that's a word we could use. What do we think about when the developer and the FI that they're seeking to improve all of it, to reduce the cycle time to market with new innovations, certainly to improve security? What about that? How are developers looking to do this? How do APIs help them address those
Yeah.
needs?
So APIs are usually really well documented and come with a great support of those that have provided those APIs, making it much easier to use and to understand. I think the technical lift is so much easier than the old-fashioned kind of documentation that you get, where you have interface specs, functional specs, and all these things you have to plow through. Also, there, of course, a standardized way for different integrations of different applications. So it means that you have a more of a standard way of working that through, rather than having to figure it out each and every time, which is makes it slightly different. On top of that, it also allows you to control much more transparently what data you expose to third parties, and that will really improve the security on your data, which will in the end also help you with the efficiency of how you run that.
You just said the magic word. That is data. And data is usually something that entities, especially FIs, like to keep a bit close to the vest. So if data is the underpinning of all of it and really what needs to be brought across the transom more easily, I wonder, would you think there is a lack of awareness or even a little bit of misperception about how APIs are needed within this environment, but also the way that banks should be thinking about the different conduits and use and avenues of connectivity so that data can enable new product and service launches? What are
Yeah.
the stumbling blocks to APIs that you're seeing?
Yeah, so first of all, payments is nothing else than exchange of data. And let's be honest, that's what we do, right? To make that instruction work. So I wouldn't really call it lack of awareness. I think it's more missing depth of experience. The technology has developed at an amazing speed, very rapid in the payments industry. And the back offices of most banks just have not. So I think banks are definitely on a journey where they still have to handle their upstream legacy systems and how they can apply these new processes that are, for instance, needed with faster payments to that, and also how can they adapt into this new technology? Is that together with that legacy infrastructure, or do they need to overhaul it? So I would definitely say they're looking to maximize the usage of these new technologies like APIs. And that means there are quite a number of challenges to overcome. Now, they're all on their own journey because there are no two back offices that are alike. So the journey really depends on what their focus has been, what their digital readiness is, what their end game really is. If you say what are the misconceptions, I think APIs really offer an opportunity to abstract from different practices. So, but what you see is that people start to use their own APIs, or in many cases create a like-for-like version of something that they already have. Whether that's built against a bank's own standards or an industry standard or a market practice standard, not taking really the full advantage of what's on offer, because people and organizations just tend to like what they're already familiar with. But by doing so, they run the risk of actually replicating the existing problems that they already have, and still have the need for multiple integration, for maintaining multiple flavors of the same thing. I would say that the trick is really not to do that. The trick is really to look into how you use it. Like APIs are like any message form or syntax and so on. It's not a holy grail. It's really dependent on how you apply it.
You've given some good points as to the, I'm going to use the word redundancies that may wind up clogging the market. And I would think that needs a little bit of education and outreach on your part to get everybody closer to, let's call it, standard operating procedure, right? So how do you do that? How do you come to market and start to foster collaboration that sidesteps some of this, developing and doing the like-to-like scenario that you mentioned, and really cutting down on redundancies of effort, investment, and then what winds up being a crowded marketplace as we are moving ever more quickly toward faster payments?
Yeah, I think one of the things to do is probably really educate yourself a little. I would say to investigate, really to gain clarity and knowledge about what is out there, and to really talk to a really diverse set of providers and organizations, and step out of your comfort zone a little and talk just to the usual suspects. There's a lot of new technology providers out there. I guess we're one of those that have a slightly different view to it, rather than to just repeat itself. I think it's very easy to lean into the things that you're familiar with, and as I said, replicating that. And I'm really trying to urge people to not do that, to really think differently about what you're trying to solve, and really see how you can review your organization on what you need, and how this can help you reduce cost of the project, but also of your run, and increase your scalability, your resilience. It's, of course, as I said, not a magic wand in the same way that messages are not, but you can really apply it to provide that resilience and scalability. What we've done, for instance, at Forum 3 is we took things basically a level up. We looked at the common attributes that make a payment, and basically provide a single stack API that allows for those instructions to go in independent of the underlying market practice. It's almost like it's at the level of a business model. It's an agnostic approach, I would say.
So as we're looking at all of this, as we're looking at a more inclusive or broader dialogue between FIs, different levels of officers within the organizations, and certainly the outreach that you are talking about. And as we are seeing FedNow, which has just launched, gain some measure of acceptance, what do you think APIs are going to most immediately enable in terms of new launches on the parts of these banks, the forward-thinking ones? What are we going to see connectivity enable? What products and services are most immediately bettered by APIs? And where do we go from here?
Well, I think if I take the example of the US market, then I would say it's a prime example of a single market with multiple service for fast payments, right? Where there is no interoperability really between the systems. Where I think if you don't take advantage of these kinds of agnostic approaches and opportunities that APIs provide, you have no choice really as a participant to still create multiple integrations and separate message flows and so on, and to provide processing of payments, including checks like fraud and so on, at that speed. That is really not what these back offices are geared up for. And I think really APIs can help one bridge your systems to other providers, but also can just help with getting us to straight through processing much faster. Fast is really fast, right? So because it can help with reducing bottlenecks and also allows for multi-threading access. And I think those kinds of things will really enable the adoption of faster payments in a way that would not have been able to without that. In the same way that open banking in Europe would not be what it is if it was not for APIs, the way that data access is exchanged and how that has brought up new and old services and service providers to support in a payments process. I think that's definitely also where the US can get to once, if they start using for a time good APIs. But it would not have been possible without APIs.
This is a great point, and I like the aspirational aspect there. Here's where the US could go if we are bold enough to
The good
do
and the
what we
bad,
need to do.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Last moments are yours. Is there anything that I've missed or that we haven't addressed or that you'd like to expand on that we did speak about?
Yeah, I think if I look at the US market, I think it's such a great thing that FedNow is live. And I think that's because I said it's such a typical market. I think it's really a good moment to take the opportunity and to review how you're going to handle that and what APIs can bring to you. Look not only at the functional aspects but also at what it can bring to you as an organization, like reduced cost and resilience and so on. And I think for banks that are going to go to both systems, which I think from my perspective is really recommendable, not only for reachability and completeness, but also for resilience, working with a provider or your own setup, however you feel you need to do that, taking that opportunity to look at creating a single service rather than building almost the same thing for different parts of the clearing, I think would reduce your cost of run and project, and it would definitely be a recommendation of mine to not build two separate systems and really look for that single solution. There's too many banks out there that basically replicate across different geographies and different systems multiples of the same, and that is really not necessary anymore.
A good note for us to end on. To get there quicker, to get to innovation more quickly, avoid the replication.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Avoid the replication. Jolanda, I want to thank you for the time. Thanks for the conversation. And we will, I'm sure, check in again and see where we've been.
Thank you for having me.